Speaking of dark psyches, I don't think that's a transition.
No, that's actually a weirdly good transition.
And speaking of stuff that explores dark sexual subject matter, the 2 new Manga Plus series, woof, wow, was not expecting these.
From now on, I only want to hear sexual subject matter said in that sort of tone, just sexual subject matter. Like it's almost B-52's-esque.
Oh boy. So yeah. Basically, if I hadn't mentioned it at the top of the episode already, we're going to be talking about 2 Manga Plus series that have come out in the past couple of months here. One being Dear Sachan from Iori Asaga, as well as Hina Change from Gaku Kajikawa. And I know Hina Change technically came out first, but as we were kind of talking about off mic, I think we probably have less thoughts on Dear Sachan in particular, so we're just going to start with that one. So, Lum, do you want to tell us what Dear Sachan is all about?
Dear Sachan is the first Jump NTR manga that I know of. It is essentially a story of this very stoic guy who goes off to college, leaving his girlfriend behind, and so they're in a long-distance relationship. But in the new apartment complex that he lives in, he encounters this housewife who is also kind of lonely and stoic like him. And through a series of encounters, they end up having a sexual relationship. And so now, I guess they're just in a casual sex relationship, but he's keeping it a secret from his girlfriend. And then in subsequent chapters, his girlfriend, comes up to visit him. And now that's bringing a whole new level of tension. And that's basically the story so far in a nutshell.
Yeah, so now we're just waiting for the other shoe to drop at this point.
Yeah, we're waiting for Sachan to find out that her boyfriend has been cheating on him, and what will happen next.
Man, so I don't know what this says about me, but I actually thought this was a pretty exciting read. Or at the very least,
Exciting in what way?
I mean, to take that as you will. But see, I don't know, and I think I feel the same way about Hina Change as well. Both of these series had a way of really keeping me interested. I feel like if we have anything to say about both of these titles, it's that they just had a way of keeping me sucked in, keeping me interested.
They're engaging despite how they kind of make you feel sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, seeing people make terrible decisions and spiral out of control emotionally is, unfortunately, oftentimes fascinating to watch in these stories.
It's what I would call a very spicy read. But I don't know. What did you guys think?
I'm curious about Max's thoughts, because when Hina Change came out, we sort of exchanged our thoughts, but I don't really know your thoughts on Dear Sachan, so I'm very curious.
To give you an idea of my main sort of impulse with Dear Sachan, until you guys brought up doing an episode about both of these series, I'd kind of given up at the first chapter. I'd finished that and gone, oh, this is an interesting and morally challenging stuff, but rather than thinking it's bad, because I can't say this enough, one of my favourite series right now is called Adultery Restaurant. But it's if anything, it's a little typical for the genre.
That is true, yeah.
The thing that works in its favour is that it's running on Shonen Jump Plus, which is not traditionally a place you'll see stories about affairs or yes, Netarare, stories. Although increasingly becoming a thing on these shonen web reader sites. Shonen Jump Plus has this. Sunday Webry has a series that's literally just about people discovering, oh, Netarare, that's kind of hot, but do we feel happy about it? Which is
Huh.
I'm waiting for Magazine Pocket to go and get onto this train as well. It's becoming very popular in the shonen web manga sphere, which is really weird.
That is quite strange. Mm-hmm. What could be attributed to the rise of NTR's popularity in mainstream content?
And I'm not necessarily a mark for that kind of story. I'm not the sort of person who thinks Naruto is, oh my god, it's so exciting for someone to get cheated on and also maybe be aware of it. Oh, but I mean, I have bought the first volume of the one from Sunday Webbery, so like, I mean, they can be good stories, is my point, regardless of the how you feel about the genre at large. But Dear Sachan, it's kind of just hitting those beats in a really, really vanilla way. It's literally just, oh, I've moved somewhere new. Here's this woman. Oh, am I attracted to her? She seems a bit like me. Oh no, she's married. Ah, she's winding me up. Time to have sex. You know, like, it's beat for beat for beat. Then, the actual girlfriend turns up. Will she discover something? Will she just, like, meet the person he's having the affair with and be like, oh my god, she's beautiful? That's what happens. It's going through the motions a little bit, but the thing that really has me interested in it is that the narrative framing device of all this is that all the narration is done as if they're actually letters being written to Sachan. Which, like, that, well, not all of it, but a good deal of the narration. It's not consistent enough to really nail it. And I think that's a really good way of exploring this very stoic character, Kyo, who's doing the bad affair. Ooh. And that's kind of neat. If it sticks with that, I'm definitely interested to keep reading it because it makes what's a kind of rote story feel fresh. But it's also kind of only wrote to someone who's, how to put it, in English language official releases, this sort of story doesn't really come out. So it's probably a lot more fresh to people who aren't awful like me, you know?
I get you, yeah.
Yeah. But that was a lot of rambling.
Yeah, I guess for myself, like, I don't typically read a lot of stories like this, but, yeah, I don't know, something about this, I guess what interests me is that, like, I thought it was interesting how, like, I don't know, I just find it interesting how Kyo has found somebody that's more like him, and now I guess what I'm invested in is, like, you know, like, how far is he willing to go to keep up his relationship with his girlfriend, and I don't know, like...
Well, it's interesting to me because he kind of begins his relationship out of curiosity almost. And, like, he finds himself fascinated by this woman, Shino. And he sees so much of himself and his personality in her. And, like, he's the one who really projects onto her that, oh, she is like me. But when we kind of see descriptions of, like, their sexual experiences, but also, like, kind of see them interact, there doesn't really seem to be that much of, like, a happy bent there. Like, I don't really know if, like, he is actually finding any, like, sort of fulfillment in this, really, but there is some sort of emptiness that he is aware of that he has inside him, and so he's trying to fill that gap.
He's scratching some sort of itch.
Yeah, for whatever reason, he wasn't satisfied with his relationship with Sachan. He wasn't satisfied with his life, and so that's kind of causing him to engage in this kind of destructive relationship and causing him to do this pretty awful thing of cheating on his girlfriend. So I think that's kind of interesting. I think, like, he's not... he doesn't have a whole lot of personality so far because he's such a stoic character. I think, though, that the groundwork for, like, exploring, like, why can't he really express himself more emotionally? Like, they make such a big deal of, like, he only really smiles or laughs, like, genuinely very rarely. Like, Shino points out in the first chapter that his laughter sounds boring when he's, like, laughing ha-ha to, like, his friend's bad joke. But then there's a flashback that's, like, Sachan kind of notices, hey, every now and then you let out a small little laugh just for me, and I like the way your face looks like that. And we don't really see that kind of expression from him yet. Like, we just know that does happen sometimes around Sachan. But is that Sachan projecting onto him and reading something that, like, maybe he himself is not really feeling that? So, to me, it's kind of interesting just exploring this character's psyche and, like, what is causing him to do this. I think that himself, his reasoning right now is that he's drawn to her because she is like him, and he's trying to fill his emptiness. But, like, really being fully aware of like what he wants to be emotionally satisfied and be able to express himself emotionally, I think it should be like the core of the series and like the central problem that is addressed as it goes forward and be his character arc. So that's what I'm kind of interested in seeing develop for sure. And then with Shino on the flip side, that's also something that we should explore with her more in future chapters. Like, it's probably a kind of a similar situation. Obviously, there's, like, some reason why you can deduce that by the fact that her husband is not home very often. That's why she would also try and do something quote-unquote adventurous.
Well, it seems like both of their problems ultimately are that they're bored.
Yeah, essentially, this is like something they're doing to spice up the mundanity of their lives, essentially. That is a good point. It's like, they want something to thrill them. But yeah, it's in her character I'm going to be interested in seeing, because she seems to have, she does have, like, now that she has interacted with Sachan, and like she does have like a degree of power over Kyo in terms of like, now it's like if Kyo wants to keep the secret from Sachan and doesn't admit to her, like Shino can like manipulate him to do what she wants, because like their relationship is in her hands basically, because Sachan is a very trusting person and she had like a positive interaction with Shino already, so like there's things there where I can see where the direction where the series is going in terms of like how Shino might function as an antagonist and like as a source of conflict that it will interfere with Kyo and Sachan's relationship until Kyo like works up the ability to like admit to Sachan what he has done and like really try and figure himself out and what he wants, instead of like kind of going through the motions of life and just doing things out of convenience or out of boredom.
And I think you really put it best earlier. I think that's why I'm interested in both of these series, is that they do have these like psychological elements to them that like I'm legitimately interested in exploring.
Oh yeah, and like there's definitely two things to think on psychologically here. Like, so the big main thing is nobody cheats for no reason. As much as I'm saying it's boredom and that, like there's this looking for the why, like what thing are they unhappy with? Are they actually in love in a relationship? Or as the very opening of chapter 1 posits, maybe Kyo wouldn't have cheated if he essentially forced himself more on Sachan in a past scenario where she backed out of doing something.
I think it's mostly the curiosity of having sex. If he did not already have a sexual experience, maybe he would have turned Shino down. Because after having sex with Shino, he wasn't happy with the experience. Like, he was just feeling kind of disgusted. So, like, the sex itself is not satisfying, but he's just drawn to having the relationship with her anyway.
Yeah, but it's still framed kind of weirdly there. And the other thing that I think's interesting to think about is I feel like the series, by going with the whole she's like me vibe, I feel like it's asking one of those age-old questions of like, is it better to be with someone who's like you or the polar opposite of you? And it'll be interesting to kind of see if the series does anything with that idea as it goes on.
Yeah.